Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Livin The Dream podcast, video podcast and audio podcast, whichever you prefer. My name is Rishi Barran, and I've worked in the sports broadcasting industry full-time, 15 plus years. And now I've moved on to be a course director at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, which has been very rewarding. And this podcast is all about featuring our graduates who have gone on to live their dream in this industry. And I'm very fortunate to have with me as our first guest, one Carley Ford, who was one of our outstanding students and now is just killing it in the business at WJAC in Altoona, Pennsylvania as their weekend sports anchor. Carley, how are you?
Hi, Rishi. I'm doing good.
It's so good to see you. I see you're repping with the Armada t-shirt.
Full sale. Yes, it's like I was looking for our Dan Patrick logo and I couldn't find it, but I still have like boxes of stuff I haven't unpacked, even though I moved in like October. And so I found my Full Sail Armada shirt though. So
the life of living all across the country, going for different jobs. And we've had graduates move all over the country. But what's special about tonight is Carley was our first true sportscaster that took a job as a weekend sports anchor reporter, and she got thrown right into the mix. So we're going to go into that. But the way that we're going to start this Livin The Dream podcast every time is with 3 questions off the top. So Carley, you ready for it?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Well, they're all going to be about your dream. So how did the dream to become a sportscaster start for you?
I've really only known sports. Like when I was little, my brothers are like 10 and 14 years older than me. And like some of my first memories were being at their like baseball games, their basketball games, like me doing YMCA, like soccer, like in preschool and dance. So like all I ever knew was sports. And before I like knew exactly what I wanted to do, I knew I loved to talk. I'm an only child. So like, it's kind of embarrassing. I talk to myself when I'm young, when I was younger.
Don't worry, I did that too, Carley. So don't feel alone.
I I'm my dad's only child, even though I have brothers. So like, there's a big age gap. So like, I was always alone. I just like always loved to talk, always loved sports. And I just remember when I was younger, I was like, why would I ever look for another job when there's one like literally doing the 2 things that I love so much? And that's how it all started. Like just watching sports, being around sports, playing them myself. I don't know anything about sports.
And you coach too. And we're going to get into more of your background later. So what we'll do is ask these 3 questions, and then we're going to spend more extended time on each of them once she tells us a little bit about the 3 big questions, as I like to call them off the top. So what's it like now to be living your dream?
It's kind of crazy because some days I have to it's work, and I'll put it that way. At the end of the day, like I'm living my dream, and some days I have to remember that, like even if I have a really hard day at work, like my hard day at work is maybe mispronouncing something or like saying something like a little bit like, I don't know, messing something up, better is a way to put it, about the Penguins or the Steelers. Like but I'm still talking about the Penguins, like at the end of the day, and like local sports stuff. So like a bad work day for me is still a better work day than like most people would have. Like I went to the doc the other day and I told him what I did. And he was like, oh, your job is so much cooler than mine. And so like, it's been fun. It's been an experience, like first job and like live TV. Cause we did live stuff there, but live stuff at school and live TV are like 2 things. Like this is live recorded. Like you can mess up. That's fine. I've been live TV when the prompter went dead or when my East standing graphics for the NHL went gone, and how I like off my top of my head, I could not have told you all teams like wins, losses, and points off the top of my head. So if I don't have a graphic to do that, it was kind of wild. But overall, I love it. Like I said, there's some days where it's rough, but there's so many more good days. And like I said, my worst day is me just getting hot, like shooting baseball or something. Like that's fun though.
Well, I can't wait to hear about the experiences you mentioned where you had to deal with some adversity and how you handled it. We're going to get into more stories about that later here on the Livin The Dream podcast. This is our first ever podcast with the great Carley Ford from WJAC. Carley, my final question off the top is, where do you want this dream to take you next?
I've thought about that. And just where like I'm at, I wouldn't mind moving on and going to a new place once this contract ends. But also I know like in our field, like multiple people are always trying to go up and go away. And like who knows, my boss could want to go and move on. I would not be so upset staying here and like trying to be a sports director before I moved on. But I also wouldn't be upset going to the next market. End goal though, I still think I want to be a sideline reporter. End goal. I've learned I really love that at Full Sail. Like, and I still haven't found a thrill like that yet. So I think that's end goal. That's what I want to do long term.
Well, you were very good at it, and Carley did a lot of that for Rollins College through our partnership between Full Sail University's Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting and Rollins. And I seem to remember some of those clips making it on your demo reel, which helped you get this job. And we're going to go into that shortly as well. So let's go back to the beginning now. You mentioned, your family's love of sports. I know your dad has been a big influence on you as well. How did he kind of contribute to your dream?
My dad has just always been the person to push me to want to do better. Like, even if I didn't do my best, he'd be like, it's okay. Like, you can do better the next time. And so I remember when I got out of like my first school, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And so he literally was the one that said, hey, do you want to go to Full Sail? I was like, yes, I do. And so he's just been there step by step, like little processes, big processes. 2 weekends ago, he was telling me like golf information, especially this past weekend with the PGA championship and leading up to it. If I have any questions about anything like that, he's the person I call, and he'll give me little tidbits of information that I'll go like double research. Cause I'm like, I trust my daddy, but you want to make sure like everything's right. But I don't even like really have to do that because he knows his golf so well. And so, I don't know. He's just been awesome.
He's such a great guy. I've had a chance to meet him a few times, and just very encouraging, just very down to earth, much like you are. And you mentioned moving on to another school. You started at Virginia Commonwealth, and really kind of cool for us to have someone who had that kind of maturity, being already a college graduate, and then coming to our program to expand that. But what did you take out of your time at VCU?
Luckily at VCU, I had already kind of majored in the same field. I did broadcast journalism there. So I got like the basics of camera work and like the basics of Premiere and stuff. So when I came to Full Sail, I kind of added on to that. And I kind of expected what you guys wanted when you said packages. Like I knew those terms, like packages, VOSOTs, stuff like that. And how you said the maturity level too. I feel like if I would have came to Full Sail at 18, 19, I wouldn't have realized the opportunities that the school has are so much better than other schools. But by going to another school and seeing like, oh, there's only opportunities in that city of the school. Like with Full Sail, there's opportunities like every country, like pretty much every, not every country, but every state, state, not country, but probably a bunch of states. I don't know.
Yeah, and I know that you took some advantage of that too with doing so many different things. You mentioned every state for our online students too, to be able to potentially work as a runner at an NFL city wherever they are, whether they're in Minneapolis or San Francisco or Boston or wherever, right? But how did getting so involved in school help you reach your goals?
It separated.
And when I say involved, I mean involved in the extra activities outside of the classwork.
It separated me because I knew you before you were even my teacher. Like I knew most of the professors before they were even my teachers because they'd seen me doing Rollins games or I had reached out for help with certain other areas. Like, and that was a big thing. Like my job I got now was because I did an internship that was owned by like Sinclair. And so my job saw, oh, like you did something outside of school that's already in our company. Like we're just going to continue on from there. And so like, if I had just done what was required in class, wouldn't have had that internship. And I remember like Jeff and Gus kind of being upset that like not a lot of people jumped on board on that tennis channel opportunity. Like that's tennis channel. To me, that was so huge that they sent it out. I'm like, even if you don't know tennis, like I didn't know lacrosse games. I still went and like called a lacrosse game and I did stuff I didn't know, but because like, why would you not? Like you can at least learn on the opportunity. And so that's what separated me was being willing to put myself out in situations where maybe I didn't know, but I was willing to learn so that I could do better the next time.
Yeah, and we try to simulate for you as much as we can, Carley, like the real life experience, but there's nothing quite like being in it.
And
How eye-opening was your experience at the Tennis Channel?
Very eye-opening because it wasn't all like, so the internship I had was to be a like online American reporter. So I'd report on the American players that were doing well in tournaments and how they were doing, things like that. But on the backside of that, I was also doing a lot of grunt work for them. Like I went to the first ever opportunity we had with them and I laid out cables like in the rain and like rolled out cables in the rain. And then the next tournament I did, I manned a camera during love bug season. Okay.
Oh
All my
no.
people. Yeah. I was covered in love bugs. It was hot, manning a camera for hours. So like, it wasn't, just, hi, I'm Carley on camera, getting multiple reps and doing great stuff on front of the camera. No, I was doing stuff like behind too, like sweating and like showing them that, hey, I can be used in multiple universes, not just, hi, I'm on camera. No.
Yeah, and I'm sure it brought some humility too, right? You obviously were told from the beginning that you were very good on camera, and then when you're pulling the cable and swatting away the love bugs, you realize that there's a little bit more to this than just going on camera and smiling, right?
The love bugs were literally the grossest thing because it was hot and like you couldn't like if y'all live in Florida, love bug season. And like I was just covered in them. And like the place where I would sit was also where I was standing and like smashing them. And it was just I just get chills. So like,
All right. Well, I think you have more fun talking about how you got into Full Sail. So what made you decide to, already with a college degree, to take the leap of faith in us and our program to come and try to go after that dream?
First off, I will say I have like great people in my life because number one, great person, my dad took me there and was like, just try it. We'll see how you feel about it because I didn't know what I wanted to do after graduation. It was coming up like within half a semester and I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. So when I got down there, the second great person that I met was Gus. And like he just like we did that like where you go on camera and then you go in front of the green screen. And he made me feel so good about what I learned in my first college because I just applied those skills that I learned at VCU to do there. And Gus was like, you don't even have to come here if you don't want to. Like I would like for you to, if you could probably have a job. And I felt more encouraged by Gus in those 10 minutes that I felt from VCU and 4 years of what I wanted to do. Yeah, I feel like that sounds kind of wild, but that's how I felt. And so after Gus said that to me and like I could tell he wanted to invest in the program and like wanted to help the kids, I was all in.
And that's one of the things I enjoy about it too, is that everyone there cares. And it's not just in our program, the whole university is like that. And it's kind of got that family atmosphere. And I know you've experienced that with your classmates. I know you've had kind of a tight knit group of classmates that you've gone through everything with. But I also know that you got thrown into the fire pretty quickly with us, especially with the play-by-play / color commentary at Rollins College. What can you share about that experience for us?
So that was, I started Full Sail online, did the first 2 months online, moved down my third month. And first class of sportscasting was Jeff Schetzel at the time. And so I was there to intro to sportscasting and found out about the opportunity with Rollins. Went as just to learn as an observer. And person that was supposed to be calling the game wasn't there with like 30 minutes to go. And so like, this is the color persons. Like Gus was there, I was there, and then Adrian was there for the play-by-play that day. And so we're like laid in and the color guy hadn't shown up and I had met with you already. And so like, I had like a basis of what to do and never called a game. I didn't go with like a full game board, but I went with both teams' rosters just so I could like study and see what see what Adrian did with his game board. Person doesn't show up till like 5 minutes right beforehand. Gus looks at me, he goes, do you want to do it? I know you know volleyball. And I just go, okay, like sure. And so I did it. And cause I didn't know much about the two teams. Like I didn't know anything about Rollins. Like that was my first introduction to Rollins. So I couldn't go like in depth on little tidbits of notes. I just did the color and I just saw what I said what I saw. And it introduced me to play-by-play, and it was actually a really good broadcast, I thought, because it was more natural and definitely shook off the nerves for future broadcasts. Like I wasn't nervous after being thrown into it, like you said.
And it shows you that obviously the preparation, we preach it every day, how important preparation is, right? But you can't get so caught in the preparation that you don't actually just observe and say what's happening, right? Because that's what we want it to feel like. We want it to feel like you're watching a game with your friends and we're just having a conversation. But I do think you're right that your volleyball experience, not only playing, but coaching, helped big time in that. And obviously, I'm sure that carries over into your job now. How does your playing and coaching background help you become a better broadcaster?
I can see it from multiple views now. Like if you're just like a player, you just look at it as a player. Like you don't look at it the ref sides or the coaching sides or even like a broadcasting standpoint. So now that I've played and coached, I can kind of see things on the court or like the field better, like the action, instead of just watching what's happening in that moment. I could see what's going to build up ahead of time, if that makes sense. And so I know what to look for in the future. So I know not to just like get caught away with one thing and like storylines, I guess. Cause before, I feel like when you're a player, you get kind of stuck on, okay, like this is the best person. We're going to focus on them. We're going to do this. But as you're a coach, you realize that like many people contribute in little different ways. And so when I'm like, especially now when I'm out there shooting, some people might just be like focused on the ball, like follow this, follow this, follow this, follow this. I would be like, I have one eye open, which like people have taken pictures of me, which is kind of creepy because I'll be like one eye open and like one eye in the viewfinder, but I'm like watching to see what's going on to like what I could find to like shoot at that moment. So it's just a knowledge standpoint, basically. All those things building up has helped me.
And that's a good thing to do, to shoot with an eye open while you're looking at the viewfinder anyway, because you're going to notice some extra things.
We had a photog the other week. I don't know if he had his eye open or not. He got crushed on the football field because he didn't see what was happening right in front of him. And we have footage of him getting hit in the football field.
Well, I'm sure he'll appreciate all the fun that you're having. But I'm glad to hear he's all right and everything.
Yeah, he's okay.
I'm also glad to hear it wasn't you.
I sent him to that thing, and I was glad I sent him.
Well, hey, that's what happens covering live sports. You never know quite what's going to go on.
No.
We're chatting with Carley Ford, WJAC weekend sports anchor / reporter. We're going to get into her career in just a moment, but I did want to ask you a couple more questions about Full Sail. What were your favorite experiences at the school?
Rollins is like top one just because they had like not only Rollins, but they had other schools come and do tournaments there that we got to cover. Because that's what a lot of my demo reel was sideline reports from the tournaments that were broadcasted on Flow Hoops. Trying to think. There was so much good stuff at Full Sail. I loved all the classes too. Like I love the pressure that you guys would put on us. Because now, like especially you, Rishi, you would put pressure on us with like time deadlines. Like I remember that activity we had in your class with the breaking news.
Oh yeah.
And we only had I forgot how much time you gave us, but now if you were to give me that time and I had to write a story, I'd be like, come on.
It's funny because we found that the best people at that, and what she's describing is there's a couple of different breaking news activities we do, but one of them in my class, which is the last class before graduation, I have one person act as a producer, and that person has to write the script based on a piece of paper I give them not knowing what the story is. They have to write it in 4.5 minutes. The other person is the anchor on set and has to wait on an island per se. And then basically it's the producer's job to communicate with the anchor, and the anchor can also do some research on her own or his own, depending on the situation. But what I've found, Carley, what's been interesting is the best people at that from a producing standpoint and a writing standpoint are the gamers, because their fingers are so fast that they're able to type so fast. Yeah.
I bet actually. That's cool. Like the esports guys. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that until recently, but it's been kind of cool to see. And I know that you developed a lot of really good relationships with your classmates, and several of them are now also working in the business. What was the atmosphere like for you as a student interacting with the other students?
Most of the time we always wanted to help each other. When I was there, I started a podcast on YouTube just so I could get the reps in. And I had another student that wanted to get reps in as a producer. So we would work together in those aspects. And same with Carson. Carson wanted to get stuff for his demo reel of stuff he wrote and shot. So I'd be his anchor or stuff like that. So most of the relationships were pretty much we wanted to help, because I found we were all in the same program, but we all had our own ways that we wanted to go in the sports broadcasting world. Burns and I were in the same month, but like he wants to do play-by-play. I want to do sideline, like same field, but two different jobs. And like, it's actually like those two work together. So like we would help each other out if we wanted to, you know? So that's what I found. It's just everyone wants to get to the same, not the same place, but we all have like the same path leading in the same like field of work.
Well, I think what the students that are probably listening to this or watching it are wondering the most is what life is like in your job now. So my first question about that is, what's the most stressful situation that you've been in so far?
Wrestling. I don't even have to think about that. Wrestling. Wrestling here in Pennsylvania, especially like we're not even talking about college wrestling. We're just going to focus on the local, because those are the people that are going to call and be mad if I did not talk about their kids wrestling that day. Wrestling is huge in Pennsylvania. There are so many, if you look at Division I schools, wrestling athletes that come from central or western Pennsylvania. And for about a month or 2 months, I was pulling 12 plus hours every Saturday, driving an hour away at like 9 a.m. And like, as a girl, I found this is my problem, was like, how do I be ready all day and then anchor that night and still look put together? So like I'd be at Altoona an hour away, like with my full makeup done, hair like halfway done, shooting wrestling like on the ground. And it's like multiple bouts going on at once. And I'm just there for like winners and champions. And then I have to drive back, edit, do other stuff for the show. Cause at this time, like the Steelers are playing, the Penguins are playing, like whoever's playing, and have it all together. Wrestling was ridiculous. And then that's just like the AM wrestling. And then I'd have to send a photog out to do the PM wrestling. And then 11, I would just do like 4 straight minutes almost of wrestling. For someone that's like just learning wrestling, it's very stressful. I met people in the wrestling community that literally like almost took my hand and they go, Carley, this is what a takedown looks like. This is how you pick up points. This is like, oh my gosh.
Well, you brought up a key point, which is it's important to listen and to ask questions about things you're not so sure of. I think some people, including probably myself at some points in my career, you're afraid to ask questions because you don't want to sound like you're not knowledgeable, right? And I give you all the credit in the world for spending that time with that person to help you with the wrestling knowledge. And another thing that I think is always important early on in jobs is to learn from when things don't go well. So I'm sure you've had plenty of great successes so far, but I'm sure there have been some lessons learned along the way. What's a lesson you learned from a day that maybe didn't go quite as planned?
Something my boss instills in my head is that less is more, because the days we try to do too much are the days that it ends up being poop. I actually had a wrestling day where my photog did not get back from, and it was state wrestling. I don't know if it wasn't like state championship, but it was like quarterfinals, semifinals. And he was like an hour away and he got back like at 11, and I'm going on TV like at 11, 17, 18. And he had live like fed the stuff over, but it was so confused. Like if you're editing something you haven't shot, it's very confusing, their flow and their method of what they're doing. Sorry, that's my computer. But I was trying to edit his stuff before he got there, and I just remember being so lost and confused. And like I went on TV and I thought we had it all together. It's like the point I'm getting at this is like make sure you're communicating the whole time, because I thought he was finishing the script. He thought I was finishing the script, and I did not have 2 of the winning wrestlers' names. And so I just remember being like, and at 185 from Myersdale, I didn't have the kid's name right now. He thought I was putting in the script. I thought he was putting in the script. So we didn't know. And so that I learned from that in the next weekend. I was like, all right, we're going to have this better timed out, and we're going to have it also like, we're going to communicate a little better.
And that's the thing too, is that you learn the lesson, right? And I've been in many of those situations where didn't quite go right, but if you learn from it and then it never happens again or rarely happens again, that's great. And that's the other side of it, is you have to go on live TV, right? There's no safety net. It's right. If you don't have the name, you don't have the name, right? So I'm sure that was a learning experience trying to fight through that too, huh?
It was, yeah. Like I said, I knew the school he went to and I knew his weight. I just didn't know his name. And I knew it the next time that he went. I knew it the next time. I didn't forget it after that.
Excellent. We're speaking with Carley Ford, graduate of the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting and now just doing an awesome job in her weekend sports anchor job in Pennsylvania. We've talked about how she was led to her dream, like where that dream started. Right now, we're talking about the dream that she is experiencing. And later, we will talk about where that dream may lead her one day. But a couple more questions about your job right now. I know that there's the analogy made sometimes to like football, let's say, right? College football to the NFL. And in college broadcasting, you're exposed to deadline pressure through our program, things like that. But then when you're doing it for real and that camera's on and your income depends on it and all that, I'm sure it's a bit different. So how different is the game speed per se in the pros than you had it in college?
Okay, one thing I will say I remember at school struggling with time wise, because okay, I still struggle hitting my times. I struggled in your class. Like if it was like a 10-minute show, I'd hit like 8:50 or like something like that.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I still struggle, and our weather girl just laughs at me because I'll just look at her. I'll be like, Caitlin, and she'll be like, I already know. So like, it's lucky that I have like a relationship with people at work where they're like ready to go with me. I have gotten that a lot better. But at school, it used to take me so long to make graphics or to think of what to put in graphics. I make them so much now. It's second nature. Like that has sped up my process so much. I would say that used to take up about 70% of my time was like, oh, what do I want to put in this graphic? What's good? Now I have to think, okay, I want to put too much in my graphic. Like, let's tone it back and like the less is more so I don't mess up. Like,
yeah.
The other day I typed softball too fast and it said SFOTBALL. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, things like that are going to happen from time to time, but it seems like it's been a great experience. Has there been anything, what has been surprising from the job itself that maybe you didn't know going in?
I feel like I knew how much local stuff that jobs did, but I didn't understand how much local stuff did. Like, I'll actually pull up this note I have on my phone. When I came up here to view jobs, I like got the phone call the Thursday they wanted to offer me a job. I didn't know what Pennsylvania looked like. I wanted to see where I was going to live. So that Friday we drove up here. We were looking at places. And it just so happened that it was during our Friday football final that our station puts on every Friday night during high school football. It's a 15-minute football show. Like the news is only the A block, and then the B block, C block, and D block are all sports. And it's all football. And so I wrote down every school I heard my sports director say, and like this, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, I can see a lot of schools there. Yeah.
A lot of schools and lots of conferences. And
that's
like
from one show?
Basically, yeah. Like I counted it up like it's still going. I counted it up and it was 70 plus high schools, and we do more out of our coverage area because it's such a big show. Like when I did basketball season, I wasn't doing 72 teams, but I was still doing like a lot of teams, and I didn't realize it was that many. And then I counted them. I was like, oh my gosh. But we've actually been killing it on local coverage. Like I will say that about us. And I've had people in our like competitions area, like at our like we're in Johnstown and our competition, like their main station is like in Altoona. And I've had people in Altoona be like, we watch you over them because you just talk about our teams more. And like that's the biggest thing, that compliment people have given me here is that we do so much local coverage. So like I didn't realize how much it was. And now I feel like that's the biggest part of local news. Cause you're like, I'm talking about the Penguins and Steelers, but you're not coming to me for breaking Steelers and Penguins news.
Right.
Like you're going to ESPN or like the beat reporters for the Steelers, but you are coming to me for your kids and your local coverage. And so I try to put my best foot forward in that. Like, and I didn't realize that was as big as like, I knew it was big. Didn't realize how massive of a scale it is.
Yeah. And I'm glad you've committed so much to the coverage, and it really is an eye-opening experience when you dive into it. I think a lot of people might want to know what a typical day is like for you. And I know that pretty much no 2 days are the same, but if it's, let's call it a quote unquote average day, what are your responsibilities?
Okay. So we'll do, on the weekend when it's me anchoring, my responsibilities are like, maybe there's a local hockey game that I go do after my 6. maybe there's a baseball game before. So like maybe I go shoot a baseball game at like 1 o'clock that afternoon, go back to the station, edited it. Because of COVID, we were getting stuff sent from like the Penguins, like their season just ended. So I'm talking about them because I'm so used to like covering them for the past couple
Sure.
months. I don't know, like Saturday is going to be weird when I go back to work and I don't have to talk
Yeah.
about it. But I would get sound from the Penguins and I'd get like practice footage. And so typical day, like during NHL season, I'd lead with Penguins, throw to their sound, and then maybe a graphic if they played that day or when the next game was, or like what the East standings were. And then I would do our local stuff. And so maybe I shot a baseball game at 1, did the 6, and then I go back out at 7:30 and do hockey, and then I come back. And I record for 3 stations. I report for NBC, Fox, and ABC. And so after I've done all that shooting and in one show, I go do my Fox at 10 live, and then I record for my ABC at 11, and then I do the NBC live. And
Oh
then,
yeah, I remember those
Sundays,
days.
yeah, and then on Sundays I have to record a morning sport. So I end up doing like 5 or 6 shows, like just in that one night.
Yeah, we used to joke that our first show was our warm-up show, and then when we would do all the other shows, we would be prepared, right?
Yeah, we're so opposite. This sounds kind of bad, but we take our first show and our last show is like the big ones, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, the other side. That's so bad. And I've had last Saturday hockey was on NBC past 6. And so I did not have a 6. And so my first show was the ones that were like, oh, it's whatever. I felt so out of my zone. I was like, I've never done a show for the first time over here. This is weird.
I used to like when that happened because then I didn't have to rewrite my stuff. So it would be like, oh, I got a 6 o'clock and 11. Okay. Oh, the 6. Well, if I'm using the same stuff, I don't have to rewrite it. I'm good. Right. So
My
of course,
6 and my 10s are the exact same content basically. Unless there was a game that happened in that time frame, I got to update it.
Yeah.
But those are my normal days anchoring. And then I have normal days when I don't anchor, which are nice.
And what are those like?
So those, my sports director will anchor. He'll do all the shows that day and he'll just send me out. And so like this past Friday, what is today? Today's my weekend.
Thursday.
Yeah. So this past Tuesday, I went and did a high school signing at 3:30. And then I did a district baseball game at 4:30, but I had to be back so that he could run the high school signing at 6 by like 5:15. So I could get like inputted everything. That day I got to leave early, which doesn't happen most days, but most days if I don't anchor, he'll just send me to a couple games. They might be an hour away though. They might be 5 minutes down the street, but most time if I'm just shooting, I'm at least getting 2 to 3 games in a night.
A little different than when you had days to edit your stuff that you shot for class, right? Now it's, well, I got to get it done in 30 minutes or less, or your pizza's free.
Our cameras are so awesome though. They have a pre-record function. So like during basketball season, I would press, because you press record and it goes back 10 seconds in the past. I'd hit record once they already made the basket.
Yeah.
So like oh my gosh, editing, instead of having like 200 clips, I had like 20 and I love it.
Awesome. One other thing I want to ask you about your current job experience, and you're living the dream right now. As we said, this is the Livin The Dream podcast. You started kind of during the heart of the COVID era. In fact, it kind of delayed your employment that you may have gotten earlier. But what was it like starting this career during the COVID era?
I was telling you, like before we started this, I don't know what my work is like non-COVID-y. You know, like we would be at the Steelers like right now as they're like in their rookie camps and they're like doing everything, and we'd be at their games and we'd be at Penn State games and we would do all this. Now everyone just sends us stuff. So I'm kind of scared to see what the future is going to be like if these big teams will want, the local and regional people coming. Because I want to go. I want to go to Steelers game. I want to go to Penn State. But it's been interesting. Like today, like I feel like too, I missed like the community part of it. Because when I've gone out in Johnstown, it's been like, all right, you go in and you get out because you don't want to be out because there's COVID. Or like today, I went and played golf with 3 random dudes I didn't even know, and like one of them refs high school sports. So like all day we were just talking about the local teams, and then they were telling me that a couple of the equipment managers for the Penguins are actually like from Johnstown. So I got to like meet people in the community today and like learn about them. They got to learn about me, and that was fun. So I haven't got to really experience that because of COVID.
And that's where you're going to find your best story ideas, from conversations like that, where he knows the sports landscape. He has some contact. All right, now there's a new contact. He's going to call you a story. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Like they were telling me like about the courses that Arnold Palmer, because Arnold Palmer is from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which is, they told me like 32 minutes to an hour from here. And he's designed golf courses in the area. I'm like, I want to go play where Arnold Palmer designed a course.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know that before.
All right. Well, let's talk about kind of where the dream is leading you. So how has what you've learned so far at your job now prepared you for whatever's next, whether that's sports director at your station or potentially, down the road for maybe a different station?
It definitely just given me a basis of like what pretty much every job is going to expect from here on out. Like at school, like, cause at school is like one thing, like you're learning and then you have to like apply it to real life. And like, I'm applying everything you guys taught me just like in real time now. And I just know what's expected of me and like what is expected out of this role and out of this position more than I did before. And just little skills like that. And just, I don't know, like just learning. And like I said, the community stuff too. Like if I could go and tell people like the next job, like random facts about my community, like if I didn't care, I wouldn't know. And there's actually a girl, she works for ESPN now. Her name is Taylor Beth Davis. She does a lot of like football and things, a sideline reporter. Mm-hmm. She's a podcast, and I was listening to a little bit of it the other day. And she goes, a lot of people get focused like when they're in one job about, oh, where do I want to go next? And they miss just like living in the moment. And I want to enjoy all my moments in Johnstown because I know these moments are going to help me for the next one.
And that's such a great mindset to have. I actually talked to my students today. It was their last day. It was their graduation day, right? So you remember what that day's like. Yeah. So it was their day today. And I said the same thing to them. It's like, don't get so caught up in what's next that you don't appreciate what you have now. Because sometimes the moments now are the ones you're going to remember the most and enjoy the most. So I think that's a great outlook for you to have on life. And yeah, that's why I wanted you here on the Livin the Dream podcast. You're living the dream, Carley. It's fantastic.
It's fun.
Yeah. And, we talked about kind of the next step for you, but what defines success for you? Like if you're going to think about success for Carley Ford, both short-term and long-term, what do you consider the defining moments of success for you?
Saying high school kids' names right here in Pennsylvania.
Great.
They have crazy last names.
I like it.
That's a successful night, honestly. But no, honestly here, because I've found myself where like you just have bad shows or like you don't hit things like you want to, graphics go wrong, stuff just happens. Success now is just being happy with the process because this is my first job. I'm not supposed to be perfect. Like I'm only a couple months in. Like I'm not even a full year into my first contract. And so for me, success now is just learning and taking away from this job. Success in the future, I don't know exactly what it's going to lead to, but I know it's going to come because I just love this field so much. Like I can't imagine working in something else. Like it's fun. Like to me, success is going to be just having fun with whatever I do. Like and being fully committed because it is like, this isn't a field that everyone gets to experience and it is hard work and long hours and you don't expect it to be as much of a grind as it is. You probably think some people think it's all glitz and glamour. Like it's a grind, but it's a fun grind.
All right. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for all your insight. I've got a final lightning round for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, it's going to be all associated with dreams. All right. So I'm going to say dream something and you got to answer as fast as you can. First thing that comes in your mind. There's only 7 questions, but you've got a minute or less to answer all of them. All right.
Okay.
All right. So you ready?
Sure.
All right. Dream interview. Person you could interview.
Phil Mickelson.
Awesome. Good choice. Very timely right now. All right. Dream concert you could go to.
Like a super country concert with like Tim McGraw and like Garth Brooks and like
so like a blowout of all the big names.
Yeah, just like everyone that's like super big country.
Love it. Dream travel opportunity. Doesn't have to be work related.
I want to be in Europe when I'm 27 for my 27th birthday, even though it's probably not going to happen because I have to cover football. But Greece.
That's the problem. That's the problem. That football gets in the way during the fall, right?
I'm born in October. Yeah.
But Greece is awesome. I have been. I think you'll love it. All right. Well, when you're in Greece, you might want to drive your dream car. What's your dream car?
Probably like a Rolls Royce or like something fancy like that.
Seems to fit you. I could see you doing that. I could see you rocking that. All right, 3 more here, and I'm deciding what order I want to go. Dream coworker. Who's one person you would like to work an event, whether you be like working a game call or just working in general with?
Holly Rowe. I love Holly Rowe.
Awesome. You two would make a great tandem together.
She's so sweet. I just want to learn from her.
Awesome. I'm sure if you reach out to her, she might have some good advice for you. So I would go for it. All right. Dream game day spread. Any food you could eat covering an event?
Well, I've already been spoiled by working a runner for some Fox games, and they had omelets and pancakes and then like food later throughout the day. So
sounds good to me. So pretty much they get the Vegas style buffet.
It was the best food. It was from work.
Awesome. I'll tell you what else is often good. I don't know if you've covered any big time golf events yet, but they generally have amazing food at the golf event. So you have that.
Okay. I have an amateur coming up in June. So there we go.
Enjoy. All right. Final one. Dream event to cover for work.
A Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Super Bowl. That'd be pretty much any of the big ones. The Stanley Cup finals, that would be crazy too. But Super Bowl would probably be number 1.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's going to be special, and where you are right now, a lot of those things could come through there, right? The Penguins are always in the mix for the cup. I know they got knocked out early.
Okay. I want to add this. My first year covering Pittsburgh sports, both the Steelers and the Penguins win their division championships, and they're both out first round of the playoffs. I don't know what's going on.
I tell you what, I when I moved to Pennsylvania, I was working in Harrisburg, and the Steelers went to the Super Bowl within 2 weeks of maybe a month of me starting. And I was like, are we going? I don't think we're going to go. And so then the week of the Super Bowl, I'm not expecting anything. And my sports director comes up to me. He's like, hey, how would you like to take a trip with me? And he was talking about, previously he was talking about LaShawn McCoy at the time was in high school, or he had just graduated high school. He's going to this prep school, and he was from our area. And I thought we were going to, I'm like, where are we going? He's like, Ford Field. And I'm like, oh, is that where LaShawn McCoy plays in his prep school? He's like, no, the Super Bowl. So that's the good part. The bad part is we didn't have credentials because our station decided so late. So we covered the Super Bowl, but we didn't go to the game. We weren't even allowed into the fan zone. We had to purchase tickets.
But you were in Detroit?
Yeah, we were in Detroit for the Super Bowl. So yeah, that was fun. So, but
that's amazing.
Yeah. So I've covered 2 Super Bowls kind of, but I've never been to the game. But you're going to be to the game before you know it. And whether it's in Altoona or Pittsburgh or wherever, I see it coming for you. So
yeah.
So well, thank you for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. This was the first ever Livin The Dream podcast, and I couldn't ask for a better guest than Carley Ford. Carley, continued success to you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me, Rishi. It was a lot of fun.
I have a feeling we'll do this again at some point. So keep doing great things, and we'll see where your dream takes you next. All right.
Maybe wrestling will be easier next time we join.
I think you'll know it all. You'll know how to pan up to the 2 points like nothing by then. I'm sure.
I already know what you. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of tonight's episode. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Livin The Dream podcast will be at you again soon with other wholesale success stories. We'll see you then.